everyone. Welcome to the Legacy Lecture.
So how's everyone this evening? Thank you so much for being here. So these are our legacy. This is our legacy.
So we're inviting you all here today because we are celebrating the long work of Joel Hall. So we invited you here so we can talk about the decades worth of work, achievement, the pieces that Joel has choreographed, and to engage in conversation with you and to hear about your thoughts and reflections on some of the things that Joel has been through. So I think I want to ask if you remember choreographing your first piece.
My first piece?
Yes, very first.
Oh my God. My first piece was called My Love, and it was choreographed at Northeastern Illinois University when I was a student there. And it was to the music of Johnny Mathis, and the song was Life is a Song Worth Singing. So that was my very, very first piece. That's the green outfit. And at that time I was also working with Anna Chayoun, who was my partner. So we did a lot of work together at that time, at the very beginning also. But My Love was my first piece. Interesting name for a first piece, My Love, isn't it? And because that had also to do with my love of dance as well. So, and the song was Life is a Song Worth Singing. And that's very true, isn't it? I hope, isn't it?
So as you're creating the first piece, what's the process? How do you go about creating something from nothing?
Well, I think for me it is, I've been trying to figure that out over the years because there is no real process for it in terms of, like, I was trying to figure out, is there a formula for this that I can get where I can always choreograph a masterpiece? And the answer is no. So, where I usually start is with a song or with a poem or with an incident that has happened, something in my life or something in someone else's life that has been, that has affected me. And I will then move upon that. I'll let that occur in a rehearsal situation with dancers. It's not always that I can figure it out, but it is always that it works out at the end. So I can start the process and then let it kind of evolve into the next phase, 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 and then I have an outcome at the very end. So I can't really explain it other than it's something that I feel that is innate. I feel that I have a gift that I've been given to be able to do that. I also feel that there is the exposure that I've had to other very, very, very brilliant people in my life all along the way, each step of the way, from my delinquency to my graduation to my evolution into who I'm still becoming, because I'm not finished yet, there's more. So I think the process is just life, you know, and just being truthful with what it is I'm saying choreographically and having intention behind it. And I think maybe even you or some of the dancers who have danced in the company can speak to that process.
Yeah, I think that over the years, I've danced with Joel for almost 30 years. And so I think that witnessing that process has changed through the decades, which is part of what we're here to talk about, not only from piece to piece, but Joel is highlighted in Black Dance, the book Black Dance, and they discuss how the social importance of the work, that there's usually some sort of social message in his work, and that's one of the things that differentiates him from other choreographers. And I think that process and the context of what it is that we're dancing about, that you're choreographing about, is always a reflection of that. So if we look back to My Love, what was it that you felt compelled to say? So we're talking 70s. I kind of want to go through some of the decades and talk about
Early
different pieces.
70s.
So what are you compelled to say in the 70s? Who are you at that moment in time?
Okay, I think, well, at that moment in time, I was just coming out of my street life into a university situation. So I was coming from, I was born in Cabrini Green, so that was my neighborhood, that was where I grew up. And those were the people that I knew, and those were the people that I hung out with. That was the rhythm and blues that I listened to, and the jazz that I listened to. So there was this point where I met someone who is still a very, very close friend of mine. He's 74 now, 73, and his name is Shabazz Perez, and he really influenced my life in that he said to me, Joel, I think that there's something that I think you need to go to school. You need to get an education because you're so smart without going to school. So why don't you think about going to school? And it never really occurred to me that I would be doing that, going into a university situation or a university setting. So I took him up on that, and he kind of mentored and walked me through that first process of education at that level, at the university level. However, I had been taking some dance classes, but not really in a serious way, with people like Shirley Mordine, and people like Nana Scheinflug, and people like Fred Alexson, and people like Al Gosson. These were all Chicago people that were doing choreographing here or teaching here. So I got a chance to study with them. When I got into the university situation, I was also thrown into the midst of the Black Panther Party and into the midst of STS. You guys know who those people are? They just made a movie about Black Panther. Well, there was a Black Panther Party, and they were very serious. And it was a very serious time to live in. And I was very excited and thrilled to be a part of that evolution as a openly gay Black man. So it was like a single person and a crowd of thousands, and I was standing kind of by myself because I had to be protective of me, and because I could be gone off on at any time by anyone in any situation, even walking down the street. So I got to the place in my life where I decided that I had to be who I was regardless of other people. I couldn't be for other people, I had to be for me. And in getting to that place, I found the strength through support of people like Shabazz, through support of my peers and some of my instructors at the university, to get to the point that I could stand up on my own. And now I have a voice. You know, I had a voice at that point, but it was a solo voice. And now I have a voice of thousands of people that I've been able to influence and have become of notice. Hi, Booze. How y'all doing? Hey, Miss Thing, how you? Okay. Jan Rodder. So I haven't seen some of you in years, so it's so delighted to see you. I'm amazed. Okay. So I hope that answered the question.
So also in the 70s, we see Nightwalkers come. And Nightwalker becomes the first real signature work of the company.
Mm-hmm.
It is very well accepted by audiences, and it's something that has withstood the test of time. So we still perform it.
And it still happens.
Uh-huh.
It's still real. Nightwalker was done in 1974, I think.
79.
79. She's got the.
I got it. In the late 70s.
Yeah. So Nightwalker was a piece about street people. It was a piece about people of the night, and these were people that walked at night. So what suggestion would they give you if I said people who are out at night, all night long? What comes to your mind?
Hustlers, prostitutes.
I'm sorry?
Hustlers, prostitutes.
Hustlers, prostitutes. That's my sister, that's it. Okay, so Nightwalker was about people of the street and people of the night, hustlers, prostitutes. But these people were set in a period of the 1930s and 40s, which was a very, very elegant and sophisticated period for black people, I think, in terms of how we looked and how we thought of ourselves, how we dressed, how we carried ourselves, who we associated with. So it didn't matter if you were a hooker, or it didn't matter if you were a jazz singer, or it didn't matter if you were this person, or it didn't matter if you were the president. It didn't make any difference, really, because you were all together. I mean, these ladies of the night were put together. They didn't come out unless they worked together. So I put all the guys in kind of zoot suits in this piece. And then I put all of the women in this very fashionable high life drag that was just really stunning. They were stunning, beautiful people, but they were hardcore. So I grew up around hardcore people, meaning that they were people that knew how to survive, people that knew how to get by, and people that knew how to get to the next step, people that knew how to get to the next day, because you were in that night. So they were smart people. And so Nightwalker reflects that smartness, that elegance, that sophistication, that quickness, and that the sleekness and the refinery of that culture, of that nightlife culture. And it's a very fast moving piece. It's done to Duke Ellington. There are four sections. Three sections to it. And it's a very striking, beautiful piece, I think, still. The way a piece can hold up is that it be relevant today. And I know that we have people on the street at night right now, every night. They may not be necessarily on your block, but they could be on the next block. Or they can be on the next block. Or they could be your next door neighbor and you don't even know it. Hello? Hello? Okay, so don't try it. Okay.
So one of the things that you mentioned is that it's about these real people, and in the process of getting us as dancers to become real, you gave each of us a name. So I was Rita. And Joel called me Rita for months. Tracy Wave. This is Tracy Balsey. You remember your name? Do you remember giving us each a name.
I gave everybody.
Everybody had a name. Jeff Rousen, where are you?
Zvenskaya. Okay, in Russian we call it Zvenskaya.
That was in Russia, when we were in
The
Russia.
Russian name, go Zvenskaya.
Freska.
Jeff Rousen, do you remember your name?
No.
Merrick? No? I was Rita. I remember my name. But Tracy, Jeff, Merrick, talk about getting into character in Nightwalker and how Joel pulled that from you and how you pulled it from each other. So there's a scene, Jeff and Tracy, she wants her money. She wants her money.
Way he blocked me off, and I'm like, wait, my money. And I come for him. I run and jump on his back like, no.
Well, Ronnie's got to come in and break it up. So Ronnie will get right in your face. He's very good about that. Because you can't do this like nobody knows. You ought to be somebody. Like, okay, Ron, I get it. We're good. All right. And you're on. And if you've been dancing most of your life, you've been taught. If you've been doing ballet studios, that you're supposed to be reserved and all pulled in and very, very, everything's very tight and small. Everything's about the dance and not about you as a person. And then you come here and you're like, all right, now you're gonna get out and get, it's okay, I get it. And then Ronnie's right here in my face. Oh my God, and it changes everything. You actually, you gotta put something out, you gotta act in something, you have to be somebody else that you weren't when you got there. Joe Ehrenberg had a lot to do with that too. He liked it when he would tell you, people want to see you enjoy yourself. What are you doing there? And he would try to pull something out. He wanted to pull characters out of you. Always. Yes.
So, Joel, talk about Joseph a little and how the two of you came to make all of this happen as
Okay.
co-founders.
The name of my organization is our organization is Chicago City Theater Company, Joel Hall Dancers and Center. So it is two entities. Chicago City Theater Company is the mother company, and Joel Hall Dancers and Center is under the auspices, actually, of Chicago City Theater Company. And Joseph Ehrenberg, who was my ex-partner, is now, who is no longer with us. It was the theater aspect of the organization, and I was the dance aspect of the organization. So Joseph and I met through a production that I was doing at the MCA. What is that? Museum of Contemporary Art. Years ago. And I was doing we were doing something called Markings by Dag Hammarskjöld. And the director of that film, or of that production, was a very close friend of Joseph's. His name was Herbert Allen. And Mr. Allen was the person that really introduced us to each other. And I was just doing a very short piece in it to the spoken word of Joseph, who was reading from Dag Hammarskjöld. So that's how we met. And I was on the dance floor at a place called the Bistro in the 1970s. And Joseph and Herbert were at that bar. It was after the show had closed. Joseph and Herbert were at that bar. And I was out on the floor just twirling. You know how we get. It's like you gotta get out in the middle of the floor and twirl. So I was out there just twirling by myself, which I'm very good at doing. If I can't find a partner, then I'll go out there and do it myself. You know what I'm saying? Because you enjoy the music, that's what you're there for. You're there for the music. And Herbert came out on the floor and he said, Joel, he said, Joseph would like to talk with you. He says he's not really spending any time getting to know you. So Joseph came out on the floor I said, well, tell him to get out here and dance if he wants to talk to me. And so Joseph came out the floor, and he did this. That's how he did it. I was carrying on, you know. So he said, I think I better sit down. I said, I think you better sit down too. So we both sat down and we talked for the entire evening, from that moment till the bar closed. I didn't dance anymore that night because we were talking about theater, we were talking about dance, we were talking about the arts, all of these very important things. And then I think the next day he invited me to the University of Chicago, what is that built, that church? Rockefeller Center. They were doing a production at Rockefeller Center that I went to see. So he invited me to that production, and we kind of hooked up from there. And we didn't not see each other until the day he died, which was in 1993, 4, 93, I believe. It was 94. And then I was a wandering child for a while, only for a while. And then I met another love of my life who is sitting over here, Mr. Davis. And that has been a very interesting period of my life, because without these certain people at certain times, I probably would have been doing something else. Maybe chickens in Costa Rica. I like that idea. Raising chickens in Costa Rica. Get it? Oh, I don't know. Okay. I wouldn't mind doing that. That would be okay. But I have to dance too. Tracy, talk about a little bit more about Nightwalker.
Oh my God.
Didn't it start in the dressing room?
Because I was gonna say, the way how you got us to do that, you know, in class, you always fostered that. You don't just do 5, 6, 7, 8, go to the corner, come over here. No, it was never about that. There was always a story in class, there was always a feeling in class, and there was always encouragement to be authentic in whatever we did. So then when it came time to do the choreography, well, hey, it's no problem, because we've been practicing, you've been coaching that in class and rehearsal the whole time. So I was just thinking about that, and it's like you just went zoop, right there. So now, what were you thinking? Were you thinking about that, or more?
Well, I always think that I always talk about dance as being truth,
Yes.
the truth.
Yes.
You dancers have heard me mention that?
Yeah.
And then when you come out on stage, that you must be very, very honest about what it is you're doing, what it is you're saying, and it has to be authentic and meaningful, because if it's not the truth, other people are able to pick it up instinctually. If something is wrong, you instinctually pick up that there's something wrong. If you're in danger, you instinctually pick up that you're in danger. You can feel it around you without even seeing it, right? So the audience, I think, is that intuitive. I believe that the audience is me. So when I look at you, I see me. Okay? So I'm always looking at what it is I'm doing from your perspective. And not necessarily mine, my own, but I'm looking at, when I look at a piece, I try to be a part of who you are rather than a part of who I am. And I will always look for things that are meaningful to all of us, or things that a feeling or an emotion that all of us might, any person in this room might have. so that by the time we get to the stage, there is something that's really real about what it is we're doing, and that I can touch you in some meaningful way without putting my hands on you. I can touch your soul, I can touch your spirit. You can cry or you can laugh. You can sing or you can scream. You can jump or you can run. Whatever. I love it. When we did this performance of Ansha, and I was standing up at the top of the theater, and this guy came running up the steps of this large, you know how big the Logan Center is in Hyde Park? He ran all the way up from the bottom, first row, all the way up to the top. And I was standing in back because I'm always observing the audience from the back when a performance is going on, because I want to see what they're seeing. I want to feel what they're feeling. And when this guy started running, I thought, oh my God, he's leaving. He's leaving the piece. He doesn't want, this is too much for him. This guy ran up to the top platform where I was standing and just started to jam. He just went completely and absolutely off. I mean, totally. He just lost it completely. And I loved that. I stood back and that made me feel so wonderful to be able to experience his feelings of that freedom that he felt like he needed to get up and move his body to what he was experiencing. That to me is the most. That's to me is, that feeds me. Makes me feel really, really great. I think that has made me know that I've been able to reach something in someone. Whatever that is. Some people scream. Yeah? Some people scream out. Go ahead, work. Carry on, children. I love it. You know, because that's something that they're feeling. And our feelings are very important. We really neglect a lot of times the significance and the importance of feelings. And I often talk about our fear, sadness, anger, joy, fear, sadness, anger, joy. Love is happy. I'll come up with it before the end. I'll get the last one. But there are 5. And we all have all of those emotions in us. So I usually work from that perspective. Okay? Because I know that I'm going to touch somebody with something. Fear, sadness. What did I say?
Fear, sadness, anger, joy.
There's something in there. Love is not an emotion. I mean, love is an emotion. It's not necessarily a feeling. I'll get you. I got it. Okay. So let's move on.
So I think there is a visceral audience response that's unique to Joel Hall dancers than to other audiences, to other dance companies, to other theater companies. And the first time that my father came to see one of our shows, I said, so Dad, how did you like the show? He said, you know, honey, it was great. But there was a woman in front of me, and she had a broom, and she was waving it around, and it was Lady Bocio. This is the family. Lady Bocio. Yeah. So there's a visceral response, I think, that the work elicits that comes out authentically. And so I think that we're blessed to share that energy with the audience, too.
And with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The closeness of the company is they share that with each other as well. So those same feelings that you experience that we experience with you is what we experience with each other. And we all have love and hate relationships. Mostly love, always love, but there is an occasional discipline that has to occur. Right, Jeffrey? Okay. So, and you know, there are those points where I think that you will, as a choreographer, as an artist that is trying to accomplish work, that you can go as far as you can in an explanation of what it is you need or what it is you want. Not necessarily need, but what it is you want to get. And if you cannot reach that person at a certain level, then I think that you have to take it to another level in order to get through. Because maybe that person has a block and they're not ready to receive what it is I'm saying. And they may not be familiar. I mean, none of those dancers on the stage were hookers. Except for me. None of those dancers on the stage were hookers. Okay? So I had to pull that from them. And some of them were afraid of that. A lot of times, you know, you ask a dancer to do something and they go, I have to do what? There was one piece called Uptown, All Day Tuesday, where the dancers were nude, but they wore nude tights, but they wore them all the way up over their breasts. And it's a beautiful piece. And they had silver masks on their faces. And when I first told them what their costume was, they freaked out. Because they were nude underneath their flesh tights. That's a very uncomfortable position to be in. But in the outcome of the piece, it was fabulous. Because they went there, they did go there with me and trusted me enough to get to the point of the piece. And that piece was about living in Uptown. When I lived in Uptown. So I usually pick pieces that are related to what it is, the environment that I'm in. All choreographers do. When Swan Lake was created, that was created in an era of that culture. It was a reflection. I'm a storyteller. I'm a choreographer. So to write a dance is to choreograph. Okay, so I'm a writer. And Laura. And in writing a dance, you're telling a story. Or maybe you're not telling a story, but you're writing anyway. You're writing something. And it's usually about the culture in which you're living, not a culture of the past, but a culture that you are you are a reflection of your environment, right? Is that true? So when where we choose to live, who we choose to have as friends, where we choose to go, the people that we choose to really become close to and associate with, that is all kind of like a cultural decision. So I'm kind of speaking to you in sociological terms now, but that is a cultural decision. I can choose to live on the north side, I can choose to live on the west side, I can choose to live on the south side, I can choose to live in Indiana. Those are choices. I choose to live here, I choose to live in this neighborhood. That's a choice. I don't have to live there. You don't have to live there. but we choose to be who we are. And I think that ultimately, this company has made a choice. They've chosen to be here. Okay? I don't always get them to stay because they go on to other things. And I'm very happy about that. I like when they fly away because they always come back with something nice to say. My sister came back from New York. She's my spiritual ballerina. And she's lovely. She's a diva on point. Seriously. Okay? And she's lovely. For real, Miss Thing, you're gorgeous. We just that more turn out girl.
So Joel, these are 3 of your companies.
Okay. All right.
So we'll have to show these to the people on the camera.
Okay.
But so what you're starting to speak about, I think, is extremely represented in some of the photos as well, because everything that we've learned through dance first. So it's kind of this unique way of learning about who we are, because our best friends, our relationships all came out of the work and out of Joel's vision, as opposed to we're deciding that we're gonna, my best friend became my best friend because he and I danced together first. William and I didn't know each other at all, but we were thrown into the studio and these 4 walls to sweat it out together. And it's only after the experience of dancing together that we become best friends, right? And so all of the relationships that we build and how we see each other all comes out of these groups, which you select. So we have,
And they're still together.
Yeah.
Even though they're not in the company. Like here are 2 of my dancers here. Here are 2 of my dancers here from the company before.
Like,
I'm
Marsha
sorry.
was my roommate, and I was like, I don't know Marsha.
Who?
And in London.
In
And
London.
you said, inseparable. I go on vacation
I-
with Marsha, I go everywhere with Marsha, I go Marsha's baby. Just like you said.
yeah.
We could put together and then that's your friend. That, oh
There's,
wow.
there's no preconceived
No,
anything
nothing.
other than the work at that time.
Yeah.
And so this becomes the result of that, right? Which is a gift to our city, our world, to be looking at these photographs of these different groups of people. So talk a little bit about the mission statement and how this, we had this particular photograph taken because we wanted a representation of our mission statement in a photograph. And so we just wanted to have flesh on flesh. Everybody's different, but we are all in one little united ball here. So we wanted a photograph that represented that. And as I was digging through some of the archives today, I find these photographs, which are in black and white, but they're the same statement from this one that we just took a year ago. And so this has been a common thread for you in the work and your life. So do you want to talk a little about the mission statement?
Well, my belief is that everyone is of one source. We're all, I don't consider myself a human being. I consider myself a divine being, something that is greater than human. And I think that I don't believe that God is a separate entity from me, but I believe that God is a part of me. So I don't separate the two. So I don't separate my higher power from myself being part of my higher power. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
So I look at my work and I look at people and I look at dancers and I look at folks in the audience as part of me. So this brother sitting right here, I identify with him, even though he's different from me. I identify with her, or her, or her, or him, or her, because they are a part of me, not because they are separate from me. And so my company is a reflection of that. It is a reflection of a part of a whole, one whole single source. And that source is our creator of all of us, no matter where we're from, no matter what we're thinking, no matter what we've been taught through the education system. Okay. We are of one source. And once we understand that, I have a very clear understanding of that. Where it was most reflected, I think, was in Anja, the last piece that I created. Because I wanted to show that we are one. And all of the stuff that is put up outside of us, I don't want to get political because I can very easily do that. But I believe that personal is the political, so I'll go there. Okay. I believe that things have been set up for us to believe. I believe that books have been written for us to study. But I think that we must be very, very careful and very, very selective about what it is, what information we're putting in our brains. Because all of the information that is given is not valid. It's like this new thing that they're calling, what is it, false? Fake news. It's like, you don't know what to believe. You don't know who to believe. You turn on TV and this guy says this and Rachel says that. Somebody else says this. Rachel's my girl. Because she is on point. She is telling the truth. Miss Joy is my girl. Okay, these people are telling the truth. And it's like, because that's all I can trust. I can't trust anything outside of that because it's not necessarily true. I saw this wonderful thing on Facebook, and it had Obama speaking. And the screen was split, and there was a brother speaking next to him, moving his lips the same. And then he was saying something, but Obama was saying what this guy was saying. But it looked like Obama was saying it because it was using his lips. So they can do that through technology. So you don't know what you're looking at when you look at TV. That's why Craig and I always watch Perry Mason. Because that is something that is like probably closer to the truth. And then we shut it down. You know, we block it out. I mean, I have a tendency to listen to it more than he does, but I want to hear what these different points of view are and then make my own choices, because I think that we all need to be able to do that. We all need to be able to make choices and make our own choices about what is real, and not just take for granted because somebody tells you that this is real that it is, because it's not necessarily. Well, that was long.
Let's fast forward into the 90s.
Okay.
So El Gato Negro is the next heavily hit signature piece. So one of our repeat offenders, so to speak. So talk about how you initiated that idea.
Okay. Well, I have a black cat. His name is Othello. But I've always had this imagery of black cats being a negative. We grow up thinking, don't cross the path of a black cat. Has anybody ever heard that expression? Do not cross behind a black cat. Why? What truth is that? Whose truth? Where did that come from? Why couldn't it be a gray cat? Or an orange cat? Or a white cat? I mean, why a black cat? So, El Gato Negro is about black cats. Cool black cats that are black. Black suits, black ties, black fedoras, and it's beautiful. It's a very, very difficult piece. It's 15 minutes long, but it starts out with impact, and it ends with impact. So I believe in telling a story at the beginning, continuing with it, with a pulse in the middle, and then having an outcome, rather than just putting ballet together. I'd like to see a beginning, middle, and end, like we do when we're reading a story. So, El Gato Negro is to the music of C.C. Peniston, and it is a mix that I actually put together with another brother who is no longer here with us. And the music was just selected. I mean, a lot of times when I do music, it's like I have to set the music. I just don't pick a piece of music and dance to it. I have to like really take that music and really decipher every section of that music, every like clink or every dong or every sound, everything that happens in that piece. I want to know what it is of that particular piece of music. And I don't always feel that I can tell my story by the end of that. I don't always feel that the music will allow me to get to the point that I need to get to have my idea completed. So therefore, I will take the music and elaborate upon that. I'll take music and add something to music, or I'll take music and mix something through music. I'll take house music and put classical music to house in order to get to my point of an outcome. So it's very, very interesting to me. I love what I do. I'm so blessed. El Gato Negro is just one of those pieces that just started in a rehearsal. We went through the process that we usually go through, whichever that is, I'm not sure, because I said there is no formula, right? And then we ended the piece. Do you guys remember the process?
Yeah. There's many prime combinations or sections to it, and we learned all of them each a different day in rehearsal. So we'd come in, you'd set a large phrase, and then sequencing them with the music and playing around with canons, facings, which is pretty typical in your process. And then one of the underpinnings of El Gato is the all of the crossovers that happen. So we put together all of these sections, and sometimes you're over stage right and your next entrance is stage left. And so we added these cat crawls and improvisational crossovers with the music, playing around to the music, playing around with the interactions with one another. And so that all came from the conversation that we were having together as dancers. It was the first original piece that I was ever in. So I remember it quite clearly, the whole process, because that was new. The other pieces were things that I was learning from videotape from the other dancers, but this was the first creation. And so that sort of process has repeated itself in some of the other works. Not exactly, but it can be a common theme, I think, in how we work with new pieces.
I like to start though with an idea musically of what I want to feel or what I want to say in terms of the musicality of what it is. Because I believe that dance and music are the same. Dance is movement. Dance is, it's mathematical. So dancers are mathematicians, choreographers are mathematicians. And what we do is we have to sequence these numbers, notes, two notes, to work out to a story. So it's like I pay very, very strict attention to music. I think that silence is also music and can be used as music. And there are several times that I've used silence in pieces to make music. Uhuru was one of those pieces at the very end. And I feel that all of my work is related to math. It's science.
From the 80s, I'm representing from the 80s. There was changes. Changes is older than the 80s.
Yeah.
And then Caliente, that was
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember trying to change the music at one point for El Gato?
Uh-huh.
So Joel said, I think we should change the music for El Gato, something more contemporary. And we played around with it in the studio for weeks, and then there's no horn when they do the jump there. That's not the same. Uh-huh.
So it's important to me also as a choreographer, and I think most choreographers really, one of my favorite musicians is Miles Davis, because Miles was able to change with the period that he was moving through. And each step along the way, you can hear, he and Quincy Jones, you can hear their changes as they're going along to where they end. Another musician who was like that was Billie Holiday. She was able to actually be a different person. I had this wonderful collection of hers, and they had about 50 pictures on this cover, and every single picture on that cover was a different woman. Not one of those pictures looked the same, and they were all Billie Holiday. And so I think that is very important for an artist to be able to morph and change with the time period that they're in, and try to connect and relate to the people within that period. So one of the things for me now is, okay, I am 69 years old. So how do I relate to someone that is 16? How does that happen? I don't know the process, but I know that it can happen. Because of those feelings that I mentioned earlier, because those kids are having those same feelings now that I had and that you're having. You see? So there is a connection. The thing is, can I connect with them movement-wise without necessarily doing hip-hop to draw them in? So now the process is, how do we get young people involved in the process of training to be in the dance world? How do we get them to the process of being dancers and artists, choreographers, designers, whatever, that is related to dance. Because it doesn't stop when the curtain closes. In other words, the dancer is a dancer 24 hours a day. When they're in the shower, they're dancing. When they're in the kitchen, they're dancing. When they're getting ready for bed, they're dancing. They're always a dancer. When they're sitting, they're dancing. So it's not anything that you pick up like you get up, okay, so I'm an accountant. So I go and do my accounting during the day, and then I come home, and then I kick up and have a little cocktail, and then I, watch my film or whatever I'm going to do, and then I go to bed, and then the next day I get up and I'm an accountant. Well, that doesn't happen for dancers. They don't have that luxury. They are who they are all of the time, even when, after the fact, even when they're not dancing, they're still dancing. Yes, Jeffrey.
Well, I was just thinking about the variety of people that you pull from. And there's a banker over there who's become a choreographer quite some time ago, but in his life before he was dancing, he was a banker. But there's a dancer inside of him. There's a carpenter who's building stuff all over the place, but there's a dancer inside him. You hear the music going on at work and people are looking at you funny, but you hear the music here, and you've got a way out, a way to use that, to do something with it. I think one of the reasons that you appeal to different people, different generations, different races, different whatever, is that, like you said, there's that one thing that goes through everybody. And one of the things that goes through everybody is the dance, the music, the way that they react to the music. And that's why you take a look at Joel's company, and there isn't one person who, oh my gosh, that's a Joel Hall dancer. We had Muffin. Muffin was like a firehider. She could pick me up, And then we got Jackie, we got Tracy. But they all feel the music. They all connect to each other through the music, through you. You bring something else to it. And same thing when you're talking about I want to say Fact Jack, but that's not the right title. When you're mixing in Tito Puente and Marvin Gaye, you're drawing on people's memories. You're drawing on what people felt when that first came out. When you're dealing with Nightwalker, well, I've always been this farm kid from Roselle. We had 2,500 people there, and I've got to go run into her, and she's got these cat claws out. And what happens when you do that? It's part of that whole thing that does bring people together, the thing you're talking about before that we all share. I don't like to put the words that not everybody is a dancer, because not everybody is a dancer, fine. But you can pull it out on the ones that are there who don't know that they are. It's kind of nice.
Good point, Jeffrey.
So moving into 1999, we're about to flip the page over, and it's become 2000. And so you create Why Today.
Mm-hmm.
And so impetus and inspiration for that?
Okay. Why Today was based upon Y2K. Does anybody remember Y2K? What was supposed to happen?
The end of the world.
The whole thing was supposed to, everything was supposed to go right. Is that right? That's right. No banks, no money, no nothing, no transportation, no nothing. No electricity, I believe, no, everything was supposed to stop. So I thought, I was waiting for it to really happen, and it didn't. So then I thought, okay, why today? Why that day was it supposed to stop? So it became why to okay. Yeah? And it's another lovely piece. It's interesting because sometimes I look at my work and I don't even recognize it. It's like I look at it and I go, I can't figure out how I got to that end point. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the process that you go through to get to the end point that's the important thing, and the outcome. But there is, like I said, there is no formula for that process. And I wish that I could find one because I would make $1 trillion. Because I would sell that process so that everybody could be a George Balanchine or an Alvin Ailey or Joel Hall. But that's not possible. So what we have to do is we have to go on what we're feeling. Why Today is a very, very interesting piece. That was another piece where I could not let the music dictate to me what the piece was going to end up being. I usually have to go in and arrange the music to fit the idea.
So talk about the gongs at the head of each section and how you inserted those.
Okay. The gongs were the gongs that led up to Y2K. So we started out, I think, with 11 gongs, and then we went to 10.
To
or-
12 and to 1.
We started out with 11 gongs, and then we went to 12 gongs, and then we went to 1 gong. 12 was midnight. That was when everything was supposed to stop. 1 was
The new
was
day.
the new.
That's the unison.
Right. So you want to talk about the process of that?
I want to talk shortly about a few other pieces that will take us closer to what we're going to do next, and then open up so they can ask you questions.
Okay.
So fast forward to 2008, and you create We the People.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of not speaking of politics.
Well, people don't like to talk about politics, because either people are on one side or they're on the other side. I'm on one side. I'm not on the other side. So, as I said, I believe that the personal is the political, and by saying nothing, you are being political. So by saying something, you are being political. But whatever you're being, you're still political. It's just the world that we live in, and it's the country and the culture in which we're living in. So the president, our former president, well, I will say my president, was elected during the last administration. And it was the first time in my life that, oh my goodness, I was so overwhelmed by the presence of blackness that it actually got to the point that black people were in a place of power as President of the United States of America. Y'all know who I'm talking about? Okay. So I really was moved by the inauguration of the president. I cried, actually, during the inauguration. I saw it on TV. I didn't go downtown. But I couldn't believe that that had actually happened. That during my lifetime, that I was able to see an African-American man, a man of African descent, become president of the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. And so I thought, Miss Aretha came out, and she sang "My Country 'Tis of Thee." Y'all remember that?
Yes.
And it was so fierce. Miss Aretha was so fierce. I said, you know what? I have got to do something about this. I've got to say something about this. So I did another wonderful piece, based on that inauguration. And the dancers are in red, white, and blue, and black. And I think that I don't know. I think it was just really a very, very moving experience for me, and I think it was for a lot more people. And I was able to capture a feeling of it through what we choreographed for that particular work. But it is all about Obama. So I'm proud.
And you touched on Anja briefly, but you want to talk just a little more about Anja and the inspiration?
Mhm.
Because I think as your dancers, we observe, we don't have a lot of dialogue in our rehearsals, at least. I don't, you must not have heard my voice for the first 10 years.
No.
You know, you come in, you observe, you learn by watching. If I didn't know what the arm was, I looked right at Tracy and I did whatever arm she was doing. And so all of this goes back to this kind of sort of odd way in which we experience each other, because we experience through the observation. And observing you throughout all of these decades, there's definitely something that was spiritually awakened in you at this period that came out in the work.
Well, Anja was evolved out of my study of the Comet. And up until this point, I had not really known anything about my history as an African man. So what I did was, first of all, I went and got my DNA information through, Ancestry? And I found out where I was from, according to my DNA, and where I was from in Europe, according to my DNA. And I wanted to delve a little deeper into this whole idea of religion and what religion was. What is Christianity? What is Judaism? What is Islam? What is Buddhism? What are these different philosophies or different ideologies of thinking? And I wanted to know more about the African ideology of religion. Where did that come from? I mean, why is there Christianity in Africa? Why is there Christianity in America? Why is there Christianity anywhere? So I wanted to find out more about that. So I went and I studied the Comet. I went to classes and I learned about the Nubian tribe moving up the Nile to Egypt. And that became the cultural mecca of the world. And the Ankh, which represented the tree of life, really, was a very significant statement in the Egyptian culture. And then I noticed that in our country, what tried to happen was tried to be a separation between Egypt, which is African, and Africa, which is African. And if you go to the museum of Metropolitan Museum, Egypt is at that end, and Africa is at that end. So it's like Egypt is not Africa. That is not the truth. Because, first of all, it was all one piece of land to begin with, right? Before it broke off into Europe and Asia and America and South America and Australia and all these other places. It was all one mass, right?
Yes.
Are we all together with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I needed to find out how these people of this rich, vibrant, illustrious culture of Africa that were so sophisticated in terms of their artistic contributions and their science and their mathematics and their philosophies and their clothing and their hieroglyphics, their alphabet. I needed to know more about that, so I went to find out. I read about it. I went to some classes, and I was very moved by that. And then I realized that that was the beginning of religion, according to religion as we know religion, and that everything, this is according to me now, this is according to my research, I'm not laying anything on, I'm just telling you the truth, my truth. So then I find out that everything else that came up was after that, like Christianity, all these other religions came up after the commandment. So I thought, okay, well, let me examine that in movement. How can we examine the Kemet and tell that story through movement? And that is the Anja story. That's how Anja came to be. Another magnificent piece. Not that I always create magnificent pieces, but I get good at it. After 47 something years doing it, I guess you get good at doing something, right? So I happen to have become more proficient in choreography as time has given me time on the planet to do that. So.
Oh, that's the Joel Hall way of doing something. That's the Joel Hall move.
So could you describe, like, if there is such a thing, I don't know, I'm just playing off what these people say, is there a Joel Hall style?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you talk
Well,
about that?
it has to be after all this time. I am my teachers. So the Joel Hall style is a combination of everything that I have learned from everyone. So it's like your parents. It's like you are your parents, right? You're your mother and your father. You're the combination of the two. So I am my teachers. Those were my parents. So what I did was I was able to learn from master people, master teachers in New York and here in Chicago. It started here in Chicago and then I went to New York. I studied in New York. I studied in Europe for a little while and came back. Okay, some people go there and stay, but that was not, in my case, the right thing for me to do. And along the way, I got to study with people like Pepsi Bethel in New York. I studied here with Al Gosson in Chicago in jazz. I studied with Thelma Hill in New York, with, I mentioned Pepsi Bethel, let's see, in jazz particularly, Lynn Simonson in New York. So Joel Hall style is a combination of all of that information. And what it turned out to be was this arm or this arm as opposed to this arm or that arm. Okay? So I took all of those elements and put them together into who I am. And that's, so it's not that Joel Hall is so unique as a separate entity, but Joel Hall is a combination of all of the people that he's learned from. And that is the Joel Hall style. I'm very particular, I'm very detailed, I want to see it very precisely, and I go for the detail. I want to see. That's what I learned from my teachers. I learned to look for detail And if it's not correct, to correct it to the point that that it's right. And that's why the class that you take, that breathing class, is to increase your strength and flexibility and your thinking power about how to get through something. Do you know what I'm saying? How to move your body to the point that it's going to move. All right. Now, Barry has been taking my class for what? How long, Barry?
2015.
Since 2015. And Barry's an OG. Okay, so here's the deal. He came to me, and I love this man because he is the key to anyone's success is consistency. It is repetition. It is the repetition of the tendu. It is repetition of the plie. It's the repetition of retire. It's the repetition of développé, and so forth and so on. It's repetition of a jazz square. It's repetition of all of that. That gets you to the point that you know it. You know it. And after you say, okay, this is being on your leg and this is being off your leg. This is correct placement of your foot and this is not the correct placement of your foot. And the dancers get that. Once they get that into their bodies, it's like it becomes almost rote for them. And it just happens. They become dancers. It's a very interesting process. I love it. I love teaching dancers to be dancers, and I love choreographing beautiful dancers. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier, you talked about how artists like Miles Davis and Billie Holiday change, evolve, and metamorphosize, but yet maintain their sense and are still recognizable. And you also mentioned your age. I'm 67. I'm turning 66 next week. So, and I'm an artist. So my question is, you talked a little bit about your process and what you express for the present and the future as a performer, as an artist, as a composer, as a choreographer. How do you see yourself changing, and what do you think your next steps are? You talked about sexuality, race, but I identify now it's about age.
Yeah.
One thing we all have in common, everybody gets old, hopefully, and everybody dies. But before that, how do you see yourself evolving and continuing along this continuum in your development as a performer?
Very interesting question. I'm so happy that you asked it. It is true. I feel that like 69 for me is like unreal. It's like, really? Are you serious? Oh, you're kidding. But it's real. So I've noticed along the way that other choreographers have sometimes had failures in the continuation of being able to continue their work or their process. I have trained a lot of dancers over my lifetime in this particular technique that I teach. And I feel that the way to continue that is to pass that information to another generation of dancers that can continue adding on to what it is, who it is their teachers were. So my next step is I've already retired from when I turned 65. I went into retirement. So now I'm in the process of changing my environment. I'm going to change my environment. And I'm going to be in a different space. And I'm going to experience a different way of waking up in the morning. I'm going to experience a different way of engaging with the people around me. I'm going to experience a different way of being with nature. And I'm going to kind of take a position of what is called emeritus. And I'm handing the reins on to the next level of growth and development for the company. One of the things that I've noticed that's happened in the past is that people die or people go away and everything falls apart. And then everybody's left around to pick up the pieces, right? Here's a case and example. My parents passed away. I was around to pick up the pieces. I didn't have money to afford to do that, but I had to do it, okay? So I learned from that experience that I have to prepare ahead of time. You cannot think about something after the fact. Most younger people have a tendency to think, oh, well, I have a full life. I have a lifetime ahead of me. You know what I'm saying? But they don't plan for the possibility of what possibly could happen next, where they wouldn't be here. Okay? And that happens every day, right? People get shot on the street, right? Hello? Are you with me? So it's like they didn't think they were going to get shot on the street that day. Nobody thought they were going to get into a car accident and get killed that day. It just happened. But were they prepared for any of that to occur? What would happen after that? Well, people start crying. That's the first thing, right? So we get past that point. We pass the point of crying. Then what happens? What happens next? Anybody? So pick up and start over. Pick what up and start over? I'm sorry?
Parts of the world that fell apart when they left.
Okay. I'm talking, what I'm asking is personal though, for you, not in terms of your feelings, but I'm talking about in terms of your family and your school and your company. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do you make plans for not doing that? Does anybody ever think about that?
That's why you said that family.
Well, that's part of it, yeah.
But how can you express your creativity?
Go ahead.
Afterwards, what would be your creative outlet?
Oh, no,
Now.
this is not to say that I'm not going to be coming here to choreograph. This is not to say that I'm not coming here to teach. This is to say that I'm passing those reins on to others to be able to do. And I come in when I feel like coming in. I'm sorry, Kirby.
There's an archival history and stuff. Archives.
Well, we have the archives. We have all of our pieces. I think most of our pieces are archived, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, so these are some of the projects that we'll be starting, and that is that we're archiving all of the work. We're digitizing all of the work. Part of Chicago Dance History Project being here today is to capture some of the philosophy behind the teaching technique, the work, so that way the dancers moving forward understand where it's coming from so they can approach it with that authentic quality that Joel talked about from the beginning. So we are moving forward with making a lot of plans as to what holding the legacy means. So how is it that we reconstruct the work and keep it? Because the same pieces that we spoke about at the beginning, the night walkers, etc., those pieces are still valid. They're like reading the classic books. They're still relevant. part of the purpose of having this conversation is to show the relevance of the work and that it will continue. So that it's not stopping with Joel going into emeritus, but that we're going to keep moving forward. And then also keep moving forward with what else is relevant in our world still. So we will continue to be a reflection of what's going on in jazz, true jazz, right? So that's one of the missions, and that is to stay true to the jazz genre and not to water it down with contemporary, but how do we keep changing? How do we keep expressing ourselves through true jazz movement? And is it a reflection of the movement, just like Joel has been with so many different phases? We're looking into where we're going to be housing all of our archives. We're looking into how we can move into a new space that allows us to continue to create. So none of it will be ending. We're just rebranding.
We're just rebranding and reshuffling around and planning and making those things happen. And now we're putting people in place that are going to step into the role of artistic director. Jackie will be stepping in as artistic director for the company as I'm leaving. Jackie has been with me for 30 years. She knows my work inside out. And she's not going to let it slip up, because I will be clocking her, even though I'm emeritus. Okay, I need to take some time for myself. Do you know what I'm saying? I've been doing this for a very long time. A lot of times we don't think of ourselves until it's too late. And we've broken something and we can't walk anymore, or we're in the hospital and you can't move anymore, or something. We always wait to make the plan for what the possibilities could be, right? So what we have done is we're making some plans, and we're setting it up so that Joel Hall can. Did y'all see the corner sign out there? What does it say?
Joel Hall way.
It's my way. This is my way. Okay, that's Joel Hall way. That's going to be there. Okay, so I've done my duty to my dancers, to my students, to my family, to my country, and to other countries. We've done that. So now Joel needs to take a break. I need to slow down because I'm 69. I can still twirl around here. Okay, I can twirl. But I'm also thinking about my health, as everyone should. It's a very important part of who we are, right? If we're not healthy, then we're sick, right? So I want to pay attention to that. I want to pay attention to sound. I want to pay attention to new ideas. I want to write a book, maybe a couple of books. Laura's on my case about our new board person who's joined the board is on me like, okay, Joel, you writing today? I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'll be there. I'm so thankful for that, Laura, really. I think that it's time for me to pull back and observe and see what's going to happen. And if it ain't happening right, it needs to work itself out. It needs to be at the point where my teachers can teach what I teach. My babies have learned from me, so they know. They know how to be on their legs. They know how to get through the movement. They know how to get through this piece. They know how to look at that TV and choreograph that reset that section. They know how to do that. They've been trained to do that. So I'm not concerned. I don't want you to be concerned about me because I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be having me a good time, but it's going to be a little warmer where I am. And I'm going to keep in touch with everybody. It's not like I'm disappearing off the face of the planet or anything like that. Okay, I just want you guys to be rest assured of that. The school will continue to be what it is and more. Because these are old school ideas. I'm an OG. These are 20th century ideas. I'm living in the 21st century. So now it's time for change. I'd like to set up a point where I'm teaching, where I'm from there to here, where I can see you guys if you're on your legs enough and correct you. It can happen. Hello? Yes? So I have to think in a 21st century mode, not a 20th century. I'm still back there, but I'm trying to get fresh.
This point.
Megan?
Miss Megan. Megan Lewis has been our program manager for a year? Not even a year. She was our on our guest services rep team prior to that, has been hugely instrumental in helping to keep me organized, which is a huge wish her best wishes and farewell as she's moving to concentrate full-time at Columbia College and get her degree in dance. So we want to encourage her. We have a small token of appreciation for you. Thank you. Thank you. And in addition to that, as we reflect back on all of the years of Joel's work, we want to reflect back on his birthdays. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy 69th birthday, dear Joel. Happy birthday to you.
I was not expecting that, trust me. Thank you, dancers.
We have
I
two
really appreciate
invitations
you.
for you. We have two invitations for you. Number one is to join us in the lobby for some cake and cookies. And you can cheers to Joel with some sparkling water. And we want to invite you to see Nuts and Bolts 2018 at Beverly Arts Center. November 25th at 3 o'clock and at 7:30. 2 shows. Tickets on sale.
And where
soon.
is it again?
Beverly Arts Center
The Beverly Arts Center, which is located
in Beverly.
in Beverly.
Northwestern.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming, you guys.